You do not have freedom of speech if you can't say that only French guys and Europeans wear visors without fear of being reprimanded by government-run media, which prompts an investigation from government-run human rights tribunals. Question of the day. There are a lot of examples of cancel culture out there, quote-unquote, as they refer to it nowadays. But I think this one is the worst. If you haven't been following the Don Cherry story, he's a national hero in Canada. But I want to know what you think the most egregious example is. Which one comes to mind as far as how it relates to cancel culture? And to Americans out there, are you at all familiar with the national treasure that is Don Cherry? Are you? No. You guys know? Okay. No. So let me brief you really quickly because we're going to go to the top 5 most epic moments. I love Don Cherry. He was just fired.
Okay.
I think 38
I saw the name
years,
of somebody being fired, but that's it.
Of broadcasting, Hockey Night in Canada, okay?
Wow.
Broadcasting legend, Don Cherry. You guys know him. Bill asked me. He's the one with the suits.
Yeah.
So he was fired for making an offensive comment on, we call it Veterans Day. Over there, they call it Remembrance Day, and they wear poppies to honor World War, I think it's World War I veterans for Flanders Field.
Wow, that's
so that poppies, you know, Flanders Field where the poppies grow? Okay.
Yeah. No.
So I want you to understand the context, because this is actually going to be the number 5 moment of his top 5 moments of all time. This is exactly why he was fired in full context.
You know, I was talking to a veteran. I said, I'm not going to run the poppy thing anymore, because what's the sense? I live in Mississauga. Nobody wears, very few people wear a poppy. Downtown Toronto, forget it, downtown Toronto, nobody wears a poppy. You people love, they come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys pay for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest price. Anyhow, I'm going to run it again for you great people and good Canadians that bought a poppy. I'm still going to run it anyhow.
Fired. Canceled.
For that.
Yeah. 85-year-old broadcasting legend. I thought, well, because he sort of invoked the Old Testament, milk and honey, like it's not necessarily accurate. And by the way, he didn't apologize. He said, I didn't mean immigrants when I said you people, but I maybe would have used different words. But he did not apologize for that sentiment. Am I the only one who finds that remarkably tame?
Yeah. Wow. Especially for Canada, from what I hear.
Even I find it tame.
Can anyone say about your 85-year-old relatives that that's as offensive as they get?
No.
No. Oh my God.
Safe. Yeah. Not at all.
Don't even try that with my wife's relatives.
No.
Right.
Yeah. They're German and Russian.
Yeah. Yikes.
Oh
so this is why he was fired, and I want to go through. This is what he's been known for, by the way, too. They hired him for this. He's a guy who's outspoken. He's a guy who shoots from the hip, and Canadians love him. So that's moment number 5. Let's go to my 4th favorite moment of Don Cherry from all time. For Americans who aren't familiar with him, I want you to tell me what you think of this man, because God, I'd love him to have him on the show. Let's go to number 4. You know, the Kookaroos over there in eastern Canada up in Quebec with the French. And this is always what he's done, by the way.
I love it. That's so funny.
That was when it was, I remember it was a national uproar for Don Cherry. So
the Kookaroo?
The Kookaroo, the climate changing. Like he's using his platform to deny science.
He was joking. He's like, we could use some of the warming because it's freaking cold.
They've also come down on everyone like him for comments regarding transgenderism, that you can't actually change your biological sex. Right. So let's go to moment number 3. We're getting into a little bit, I guess you could say he got in hot water for this. He definitely did, but I don't know that it's that offensive. No. And by the way, this is actually an homage to Don Cherry. For people who don't know, Don Cherry used to have Don Cherry's Greatest Hits. I think that's what it was called. And it was just a compilation of all of hockey's most violent hits.
Right.
And he always had his little bull terrier on the cover, like the dog from Toy Story.
Yeah.
Like his dogs were national treasures. Everybody knew his dogs. Okay, so moment number 3. Here's Don Cherry talking about natives and sort of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps.
What are you saying, that
I'm saying
natives have an inferiority complex is when something happens to them?
I said you'd have to ask Chris, but why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't some kids feel like they haven't been given a fair shake in life? Ask Davis Inlet.
Fair shake in life. Go out and get your own fair shake in life and work for it. Don't give me that stuff.
I love this guy. What's funny is he's actually only 55 in that one. Yeah. Exactly the same age.
He looked 85 when he was. It's like Diane Lane. She's always looked like a very pretty middle-aged woman, but she looked like a pretty middle-aged woman in The Outsiders when she was 19.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was not offensive at all.
Yeah.
He's just saying,
being honest.
No, I get it, but he's saying it in such a comical, funny way. He's not. He doesn't look like he's trying to be offensive.
Well, you sound like one of those kookaroos over there.
Yeah, exactly. That's
almost
buddy.
Canadian Tony Clifton. You're talking about those Cocolos? Huh? Why don't you go watch some basketball? Huh? And he makes no apologies for it. He's always been very, not defensive, but he's just never apologized for hockey. As the sport has changed, he's, listen, if you don't like it, you can go watch yourself some lady basketball, because in hockey, you can't go out of bounds.
Nice.
And by the way, he also played hockey. And his coach's corner, his coach's corner segment, I think he was also a coach, has been going on for 30 years. So this brings us to moment number 2 in Don Cherry's greatest hits. This one, there was a national outrage.
Again.
Which they tried to cover this as though Don Cherry says that women shouldn't be reporters in hockey, that there should be no female reporters in hockey. That's how it was framed. If you run a search, you'll find those write-ups over there, notably on government media websites. So we'll get to that in a second. But these are the actual words that he spoke. I actually think it's a net positive for him.
I don't believe women should be in the male dressing room. I know. Wait a minute. I remember the first time it happened to me. Guys are walking around naked, and I hear this woman's voice. I turn around. There's a woman. She's asking me about the power play. I said, let's go outside. And she said, I'm not embarrassed. I said, I am. I don't feel women are equal. I feel they're above us. And I think they're on a pedestal, and they should not be walking in when naked guys are walking in, and some guys take advantage of it.
That's just him being an abrasive gentleman.
That was, it was exactly very reasonable.
How dare he be nice?
For people who don't know, my dad used to work a little bit in hockey on the business side. And one time I was in the Philadelphia Flyers locker room. This was back when it was Eric Lindros, Rod Brindamore, Joel Otto, Kevin Aneen. And I remember seeing a Philadelphia Flyers hockey player being interviewed by a woman, and I was like, but that's his penis.
Yeah.
Just hanging out.
Wow.
Hanging out in hockey.
I'm too old to go diving into a locker.
And I can't be pulling out undergarments.
It's a little major league for you.
Who has the time? And here's the thing, what he's talking about here too, and this is remarkable to me, he's talking about how men are naturally protective of women. A lot of what people accuse men, they accuse men of sexism. A lot of the time it's just because men are protective of women, because we don't hate women, we love women. Right, but when they do it with race on the left, it's okay. It's like, you need a leg up, you need affirmative action. You need a leg up, we need some diversity hires. But when a man says, hey, you know what, we want to protect women physically because we believe that they are physically vulnerable to men who are all naked in a locker room, especially now in the era of Me Too. Nothing but men, one lady, and all the men are naked.
Penises everywhere.
It's because we're saying women are physically more vulnerable, and we love you, and we want to protect you. That's sexist?
Yeah, I mean, basically,
that's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense to me. You say, I just don't want you to be surrounded by,
And if anything, you wouldn't have heard anything crazy, especially in this day and age, if someone was to go, well, I walked into the locker room as a woman and the men were changing. How dare they? They should leave the locker room.
Right.
I mean, and that's when you go, wow, maybe we should let the changing room be for changing and let somewhere else be the place where you do the interviews. And is that a position that we have to carry out everywhere?
You're way off base, because they're not just changing. The men are practically wheeling their they're doing the helicopter.
Yeah.
They are free and open in hockey.
That's fair.
And these are, by the way, these are hockey players, okay? Yeah. It's not just basketball or football. I guess there's some tough athletes out there. These are guys who don't replace their teeth or fix the scar tissue in their eyebrows because they know they're going to lose it in the next game.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lady, talk about a viper's pit. Okay, this is my favorite moment, and I know this might seem anticlimactic to people, but it's also because as someone who played hockey, and my dad played hockey at a high level, this is something that he got in a lot of trouble for, and I believe it actually spawned investigations.
Oh no!
Him talking about visors in hockey. No, visors. Here you go.
He's now being accused of going too far, so far that the official languages commissioner is investigating.
The tough guys like Ty Domi cannot wear them. They will make it mandatory. Most of the guys that wear them are European or French guys, and you cannot have half the league have them.
That's completely accurate.
Oh,
by the way,
gosh, he got in trouble for that.
Investigations got in trouble for that, and that's absolutely true. You can trace it. More European players, people who would come from the European leagues, wore visors. Yep. And the problem was when you came to the American League, right at that point, not everyone wore visors. So you have half the league wearing visors, half the league not wearing visors, and the guys in the visors are usually the ones to high stick, cheap shot because there's the same kind of accountability. Granted, saying French, that's a little bit of a stereotype, but it's true. It's
really true. But also, what's crazy? France is in Europe. so he just said Europe. I know he meant, the Quebecois. I get it. Whatever. However you say that word.
It's not a First Nation.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, whatever. The Quebecois, whatever the word is.
They hail from Illinois.
Yeah. Right. But the point being, if he's saying literally just a fact, he's just saying they're tending to wear more, and if you've got certain guys with more protection than other guys, there's going to be a disparity. Is he saying do anything as a result of one or the other that's going to hurt one or the other? No, he's just saying level the playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a lot of hockey players who agreed with him, by the way, because keep in mind, he was on the air for 30-something years. And here's what's so disconcerting to me. So many Americans say, well, you know what, we have free speech, but maybe we should be more moderate, a country like Canada. Well, let me express this to you in a way that maybe you can understand. Those clips that you saw from CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. You don't need to go to Venezuela. You don't need to go to Russia. You don't need to go over there to find government-run news. When people here complain about corporate media, man, you'd prefer government media? And when you point to Canada as an example for the United States, what you're pointing to, first off, is a place where you don't have free speech, but it's even more sinister than that. This is a government-run media organization, government-run news, sparking outrage over a comment which prompts an investigation. Think about that for a second. Well, what prompted the investigation? I saw a report on it. Where'd you see it? Government-run news. So let's not talk about these countries as though there's freedom of speech at all. And this is the same place, by the way. Pantelis, who works for the show, Mike Ward, has been on the show. He was put before a human rights tribunal for making a joke about the Make-A-Wish kid who was on Canadian Idol or Canada's Got Talent, which, let's be honest, not many Canadians do. Lots of comics. Shania Twain, John Candy, Jim Carrey, but then when you get down from the top 20, you're starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Not a lot of bench depth there.
But I want to know what you think. And I would love for you guys to go show some support for Don Cherry. I think there's a petition to reinstate him. He's 85. He doesn't need the money. I just hate to see someone not go out on his terms. To be pulled off, get the Muppet cane, because he's been doing what he was hired to do. And to Americans out there who say, well, there are other countries that have freedom of speech. Why can't we be more like them? No, let me be really clear. You do not have freedom of speech if you can't say that only French guys and Europeans wear visors without fear of being reprimanded by government-run media, which prompts an investigation from government-run human rights tribunals. You are not free. There is no freedom of speech. I like the United States. I grew up in Canada. I don't want to go back there because their laws suck. Guess who I am? I'm Josh Hartnett. Bet you didn't think you'd see that face in a while. This is what we call an end card, which is where I tell you that you should subscribe if you like this video, or click one of these other videos that you may like. Hit the notification bell, of course, join Mug Club, because that's what allows us to continue doing these videos. And just so you know, YouTube actually has created a new policy where they might start outright banning channels that are no longer commercially viable, which means that this is merely a figment of your imagination.